Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Preparation of the measures set out in Budget 2020 began long before 2020. It began immediately after His Excellency President Dr. Irfan Ali was elected to be the presidential candidate for the People's Progressive Party Civic. It was being crafted throughout his journey to all 10 administrative regions of our country. It was being crafted in every community, with every meeting, with every interaction, with every promise, with every plea he heard from the ordinary Guyanese. Mr. Speaker, Budget 2020 was designed by the people of Guyana. It is the people's budget. Mr. Speaker, it is with humility and pride that I rise to make my maiden presentation on the occasion of Budget 2020. Humility that a young woman from a small but multiracial, multi-ethnic community from Middle Road, La Penitence, addressing this great house, the highest policy forum in our country, and honored to be doing so on behalf of the People's Progressive Party Civic. Mr. Speaker, allow me to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to His Excellency President Ali, Vice President and General Secretary of the People's Progressive Party Civic, Dr. Bart Jagdeo, and by extension, the people of Guyana, for the confidence reposed in me to support the work of the new PPP administration in the housing and water sectors. I am also privileged to work alongside my colleague, Minister Colin Crowell, whom I consider a friend. Mr. Speaker, after 5 tumultuous years of the APNU-AFC coalition, during which its leaders sought to help themselves to our country's resources and treated the people as though they were forgotten, the PPPC has been given the mandate by the people of Guyana on March 2nd to resume the management of those resources. It is a mandate and a challenge which the PPPC accepts with the full knowledge that we must simultaneously clean the audience stables left by the APNU-AFC coalition, while enabling the people of our country to enjoy the right enshrined in Article 26 of the Constitution of Guyana, the right of all Guyanese to proper housing accommodation. Despite this right, Mr. Speaker, with its attendant and necessary corollary of a corresponding duty imposed on the government of the day, the APNU-AFC for the first time in the history of Guyana dispensed with a properly designated and functioning Ministry of Housing. It did not take President Ali a day to undo that travesty. And let me say, Mr. Speaker, my description of the mess inherited as the audience stables is not hyperbolic or an exaggeration. The coalition did not even know how many applications were outstanding, further demonstrating their incompetence. Budget Speech 2015 and 16 made no mention of a backlog of outstanding applications. It was not until 2017 that this House was told of a backlog of 25,000 applications. And then subsequently in the 2018 budget speech, after almost 4 years in office, APNU-AFC admitted they have a backlog of 50,000 outstanding applications. But Mr. Speaker, what we do know is that APNU-AFC left office with a higher number of outstanding applications than it inherited. That is the fact. And how did they respond to this demand for housing? Their miserable performance in the housing sector is further demonstrated when one examines their allocation record over the 5-year period. I heard the Honorable Member Jordan mention some 600 lots distributed in Bath in Region 5. But Mr. Speaker, let us not look at a single area. If we are going to talk about the record, then we have to look at the entire picture, Mr. Speaker. So let's look at the entire picture, Mr. Speaker. Let me take off my views first. Mr. Speaker, the allocations made by the APNU AFC coalition in 2015 totaled 1,223. The allocations made in 2016 totaled 2,020. The allocations made in 2016 totaled 1,131. The allocations made in 2018, 776. The allocations made in 2019, 1,301. And the allocations made in 2020 from January to July, 1,987. Mr. Speaker, this represents a total of 8,434 house lots distributed by the APNU AFC over 5 years. Mr. Speaker, this 776 are people that we see at the ministry on a weekly basis making applications. This 8,000 total is only a mere 16.9% of our target of 50,000 house lots in 5 years. We will teach them how to get it done, Mr. Speaker. We will fix that, Mr. Speaker, and we have already given instructions to address the applications and allocation system to ensure it is done systematically, fairly, and expeditiously. Mr. Speaker, this PPPC administration will give meaning and reality to Article 26 by going one step further. As in our manifesto for the 2020 elections, and indeed for all the elections going back to 1992, we are determined to enable every Guyanese family a proper home in a safe, secure, and proper neighborhood, not as squatters or as tenants, but as responsible and proud owners with titles that banks and other lending institutions will regard as good security. The budget speech has signaled the government's intent by the restoration of the 30 million ceiling on loans, the interest on which is tax deductible for the first time for first-time homeowners, and the increase from 8 million to 10 million for low-income loans, which allows low-income households to borrow up to an additional $2 million at a lower interest rate. Now, let me tell you about our plans for the housing and water sectors. You heard in the budget speech by the Honorable Member, Minister Edgil, in his most eloquent presentation, the announcement of free water for pensioners, the removal of VAT on water and building materials, bringing immediate relief to our citizens, and goes a far way to encourage home ownership. The Ministry of Housing and Water has under its remit responsibility for the Central Housing and Planning Authority, CHPA, and the Guyana Water Incorporated, GWI. The ministry's mission is addressed through three program areas: policy development and administration, housing development, and water service expansion and management. Mr. Speaker, our housing development program is designed to implement national housing and settlement policies through an efficient, well-planned, coordinated, and structured framework in order to realize the development of sustainable, affordable, and modern settlements. Mr. Speaker, under the APNU AFC administration, there was a lazy, haphazard, uninspiring approach to housing with emphasis on allocations and not on providing housing or shelter for Guyanese. Mr. Speaker, there was mass distribution of house lots in the lead up to the general and regional elections as a political gimmick, and in the period following as a final grab before the official announcement of their defeat. Mr. Speaker, APNU AFC in their 2018 budget presentation promised Guyanese, and I quote, a community experience. This, they said, will entail, and I quote, not just units or lots, but roads, drainage, sidewalks, lighting, social services, and recreational facilities, unquote. Mr. Speaker, from January to July 2020 alone, APNU AFC made 1,987 allocations, representing 99.35% of their target. But guess what? Out of those 1,987 allocations, they only processed a meager 251 titles, representing 16.5% of that target. You know why, Mr. Speaker? Because their lots were allocated to our people in areas not even under the ownership of CHNPA, a far cry from the promised community experience. This PPPC administration will rectify that and deliver service lots through a comprehensive and coordinated approach between CHPA and GWI so that Guyanese can live in dignity and not be pumping water from the canal 2 years after occupying their lots like the residents in Lust and Rust. Mr. Speaker, one of the APNU AFC's community experience is located at Experiment in Region 5, where 19 houses were built some 2 years ago. You heard the Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Faisal Jafar Ali mention these 19 houses in Region 5. And until now, not one of these have been occupied. The houses built in Experiment is indeed an experiment, Mr. Speaker, one that went horribly wrong, leaving CHNPA with a security bill of $23 million and counting. The project lacked vision and strategy since the houses were not built to target any particular income bracket, another brainless approach to housing, and the reason they remain unoccupied up to now. The houses, which carry a price tag of $140 million, have become dilapidated, infested with termites, making them uninhabitable. And we have the evidence to show of what has become of those houses in Experiment. And by the way, Mr. Speaker, since they were not built to target any specific income bracket, a flat house for 3 million with 3 bedrooms is being sold for $8.5 million. I'm not sure which low income earner can afford a flat house for $8.5 million. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, the coalition was not concerned about whether Guyanese have a roof over their heads. And the former minister could not be bothered to simply sign letters of assurance so that homeowners can approach the bank to have their mortgages approved. Only last week, Minister Crowell signed a huge backlog of letters of assurances, which were applied for years ago under the APNU AFC administration. Mr. Speaker, I heard again the Honorable Member Jordan mention the record of GWI under the management of Dr. Van West Charles. Mr. Speaker, the condition of GWI is a travesty. In 2015, when the coalition took government, GWI had just over 600 employees. Today, GWI employs over 1,300 staff, and there is no corresponding benefit to justify this overstaffing. More than 100% increase in the staff. Mr. Speaker, GWI is bankrupt. Pipelines throughout the country are porous. No maintenance. The system has been left to decay. That is the legacy of Dr. Van West Charles. Let's take, for example, the Honorable Member mentioned Region 5. He spoke a lot about Region 5. Well, I went to Region 5. Take, for example, one community. I'll give you just one example of a community called Champaign in Region 5. Look at this, Mr. Speaker. This is a leak in Region 5 that has developed into a massive hole in the road. This is Region 5. Mr. Speaker, this is a legacy. Mr. Speaker, this leak has been here for 1 year. 1 year. They've been calling to report this leak, and nobody went to fix this leak. None of the 1,300 staff, nobody was bothered to even respond to this leak. But Mr. Speaker, but Mr. Speaker, I wouldn't I wouldn't become aware of a problem and not fix it. Mr. Speaker, it took 1 day. 1 day, Mr. Speaker, and it's fixed. And it's fixed. Bringing great relief to the people of that community. Under the new Ministry of Housing and Water, housing will be restored to the place it enjoyed before 2015, with better to come. Our approach to housing will be comprehensive, with the emphasis not on mere allocation, but on promoting, encouraging, and facilitating home ownership among ordinary Guyanese, catering for all income brackets. Mr. Speaker, I will outline for this Honourable House and for Guyanese the projects in the housing program for 2020. Mr. Speaker, 1.721 billion is allocated for infrastructure development to make service lots available. This allocation includes monies for the acquisition of lands from NISIL, Gaisuku, and Guyana Lands and Survey as part of our 50,000 house lot commitment to the electorate. Mr. Speaker, we are already planning for that 50,000. We haven't limited ourselves or limited our targets to an annual target. We are thinking big, and we will deliver on those 50,000 house lots way in advance. This 2020 program sets the conditions for the awakening of the housing sector under the PPPC. Mr. Speaker, 292.8 million is budgeted to commence preparation of land for residential lots. This amount will be used for construction of roads and bridges to access lands for preparation works in Regdorsey, Block A1, Annandale, Cummins Lodge, Industry, Vigilance, Lethem, and Kukwani, among many other locations. Guyanese can look forward to an aggressive and fair allocation exercise as these lots become available. Further, Mr. Speaker, 200 million is budgeted for the procurement of electrical line hardware material for installation of electricity in another 16 housing areas, including Cummins Lodge, Annandale, Prospect, number 79, Skeldon Estate, Backland, number 75, Village, Hampshire, and Williamsburg. Essential to the development of housing schemes is the adequate supply of potable water, Mr. Speaker. We have budgeted 80 million for the installation of wells at Lust and Rust and Prospect. When you're thinking housing, you have to think comprehensively. We do not want people occupying rice field. They don't have roads, they don't have bridges, they don't have light, they don't have water. They cannot proceed with their life. Essential to the development. Many residents, Mr. Speaker, in housing areas on the West Bank, on the East Bank, Essequibo, West Demerara, East Barbies, Lethem, and Linden suffer greatly from poor security, especially single mothers who fear to get home or to venture out after sunset. Our government recognizes this problem and has allocated 49.2 million to begin addressing it by installing LED streetlights in 16 housing areas in Bell West, Schoonard, Zealot, Iflot, Farm, Covent Garden, Hurstellin, Peters Hall, Kilcoy, Chesney, Wisrock, among many other areas. Mr. Speaker, new works will be completed in upgrading 4 kilometers of main access road and bridges to industrial and commercial areas to incentivize private developers moving forward with job creation projects in Prospect, Perseverance, Little, and Great Diamond. 150 million is allocated for these projects. The upgrading of the main access road and bridges for private developers in Prospect and Perseverance will allow for access and commencement of works on approximately 500 house lots, while the upgrading of the main access road for industrial and commercial in Little and Great Diamond will allow for access and commencement of works on a further 300 house lots. Mr. Speaker, another 150 million is proposed for upgrading 3 kilometers of road to asphaltic concrete. in Parfait Harmony, Horstelin, Eccles, and Zealot. This will bring great relief to more than 800 people or 200 existing house lot beneficiaries. I turn now to the third program, the Water Service Expansion and Management. Under this program, the ministry is responsible for efficiently delivering quality, affordable, and equitable potable water services to all Guyanese, and leading the institutional mechanism for an integrated water resource management in Guyana. Mr. Speaker, Budget 2020 was presented against a background of a major world health pandemic, which has impacted the world economy and financial markets as a result. The world's major economies has seen significant job losses, resulting in a severe hardship for many families. It is our government's aim to extend the coverage for the provision of potable water throughout Guyana, with emphasis on unserved areas as a top priority. It is our focus to work towards the achievement of Sustainable Development Goal number 6, which is to ensure access to clean water and sanitation for all by 2030. This will result in the improvement in the quality of life for all Guyanese, the increase in water security, and will extend to coastal, urban, and hinterland areas. Of major concern to us is the non-revenue water, collection efficiency, and meter coverage. Mr. Speaker, the impact of COVID-19 on the nation's potable water provider has been severe. GWI has seen a 14.1% decline in revenue collection, due mainly to more than 50% or 90,000 of its customers failing to honor their bill payment obligations. Collections for the second quarter totaled 1.193 billion compared to 1.394 billion in the first quarter of 2020. This is a direct result of reduced interpersonal contact with our customers with the onset of the global health pandemic COVID-19. On the other hand, Mr. Speaker, GWI expended over $2.8 billion to ensure continuous water supply as the nation implements COVID-19 containment and mitigation measures to combat the pandemic. This represents an average monthly operating and maintenance cost of 468.6 million, which consists of procurement of chemicals and spares, the management of the hinterland water supply systems. Mr. Speaker, government has budgeted 2.8 billion to support the improvement and expansion of water supply infrastructure nationwide under the potable water and sanitation sector. This provides for sustaining and improving access to potable water across the coastal, urban, and hinterland communities, continuing the reduction of non-revenue water program and increasing access to potable water across the country. Mr. Speaker, in this regard, special attention will be placed on the most vulnerable in our society, our senior citizens and the indigenous people, to ensure that they have improved access to potable water to assist them in the fight against COVID-19. And our government has already announced the removal of the hardship tax on potable water and the reinstatement of the water subsidy for pensioners. In support of the Water Services Expansion and Management Program, the following sums are allocated. Government has budgeted 56.5 million for the procurement of smart water meters for over 2,500 customers in La Parfaite Harmony, Friendship, Providence, Monrepo, BV areas. This initiative will result in improved service level and a reduction of non-revenue water. Mr. Speaker, in meetings with Dr. Van West Charles and with the team at GWI, they complained a lot about non-revenue water. But Mr. Speaker, no meters have been ordered by GWI for years. GWI has not a single meter to install for a new service, but they're complaining about non-revenue water. A sum of $30 million has been budgeted to commence implementation of fire hydrants program to increase firefighting capability in housing areas. We begin in Region 6 in the East Kanji and 4th Ordnance areas. These areas were chosen due to excellent pressure, population density, and ease of installation. We anticipate that some 20,000 persons will benefit. Mr. Speaker, the sum of 50 million has been budgeted for the installation of raw water intake line to Bartica water treatment plant. This will result in increased access and improved service delivery to more than 7,000 residents in Region 7 Bartica. Government has provided financing under this program for installation of smart meters in Amelia's Ward, Linden, resulting in the reduction of water wastage and increased pressure for domestic use where desired. A sum of 113.3 million has been budgeted for Region 4 for the procurement of pipes to replace aged and encrusted mains between Vicinjan Road west along Church Street to Cummins Street. This initiative will result in improved water quality, reduced losses, and improved service and improved level of service, and is expected to benefit 200,000 persons when the project is completed. 25 million has been budgeted for installation of a transmission line between the 1763 Monument to Cemetery Road, including reinstatement of that road. This initiative will result in improved water quality, reduced water loss, and improve the level of service for more than 20,000 households or approximately 80,000 residents. A sum of 25 million has been budgeted for the upgrading of transmission line, Vicinjan Road to Lamaha Street, including the road reinstatement. This will improve the water quality, reduce loss, and increase pressure, benefiting approximately 40,000 residents. Mr. Speaker, 120 million is budgeted under the Hinterland Water Supply Program to benefit over 9,300 residents in the various hinterland communities. The following initiatives will be executed. Installation of mains, pump station, and new services in Port Kaituma, in Mabaruma, and in Santa Rosa, Region 1. We will never forget our hinterland communities. And so, Mr. Speaker, in this presentation, I hope that you have realized that we have tried our best in this emergency budget to cover Region 1, Region 4, Region 7, Region 9, Region 3, trying as much as possible to reach as many of our citizens as possible, regardless of where they live, regardless of their political affiliation. Under the PPPC administration, every single Guyanese will benefit under the housing and water sectors.
2 minutes notice.
Mr. Speaker, additionally, we have budgeted $10 million for the procurement of materials for in-house drilling, construction of water distribution network, and expansion in villages, including Shulinab, Shia, Chiangmaut, and Itabak. This initiative will result in increased access and first-time access for some 2,000 residents in Region 1, 7, 8, and 9. Chiangmaut has been without water for 2 years, Mr. Speaker, and we will address this before the end of this year. Mr. Speaker, in closing, I wish to assure the Guyanese people that we are working for them, that our government does not take lightly the trust and confidence they have reposed in us, and that we will ensure Budget 2020 and every budget presented by us hereafter will positively impact their lives and improve their standard of living. Mr. Speaker, I also wish to assure the Guyanese people that in addition to honoring our commitments in our manifesto, we will initiate the necessary reforms and take the necessary steps to ensure the right of every single Guyanese to elect a government of their choice never comes under threat again. Mr. Speaker, I fully support Budget 2020. Thank you.